Chapter 7, The Intersection with Xie Wei. Seeing that the last maid also put a golden hairpin she had hidden into the box, Zhang Xuning finally nodded with satisfaction. Zhang Boyu glanced at the kindergarten Qianglin she was holding in her hand, coughed, and asked tentatively, "Have they spit out all the things they have taken? Do you want to order them?" Take this enlightened book? Zhang Xuning was able to name some of the things that Yan Lin had sent on her 18th birthday to bluff people before. It was already the limit, how could she know more? So she only said, "They must not have paid back the things. I think there are many people who have taken things out to exchange for them, but it is too embarrassing for them to take out something more. I don't order these 2 boxes, just knock them and tell them not to be presumptuous in the future. What does father think? It's a bit heavy, pick it up and put it down gently." Zhang Boyu frowned, "Isn't it punished?" Zhang Xuning thought for a moment, looked at the maids and women who knelt in the courtyard again, and said, "They were originally assigned to my room after being transferred by the house, and they originally had rules, and they were all flattered and welcomed in front of their daughters, and their skills in serving people were not bad. And told them to come out and kneel, except for a few, some of them did not dare to come out and speak up. There are many people in the world who bully the weak and fear the hard, and they are all mediocre people. In the final analysis, my daughter is too easy to talk, too indulgent, and thinks too much, and she can't tolerate others to say even a word about me in the room. So my daughter thought, why don't I give them a chance? This time, they will go down to receive 5 boards each, and a fine of 2 months' monthly money, and then serve them wholeheartedly and never commit any more crimes. If there is a repeat offense, the new account and the old account will be counted together and disposed of directly." These words sounded bland, but when they fell into Zhang Boyu's ears, they gave birth to mixed feelings. Ning girl has really grown up. I thought she was going to fight and kill, but I didn't expect that in addition to finding other people's mistakes, she would reflect on her own mistakes, and she was so outspoken, but she suddenly had a little more frank and upright demeanor. The important thing is to not lose the kindness of the house. Although this method cannot be said to be vigorous, what does the daughter's family want such a powerful wrist for? Zhang Boyu looked at this daughter, and unconsciously didn't know how much more pleasing to the eye than before, and couldn't help but nod slightly, and said, "Okay, just do as you say." Zhang Xuning's heart was calm. Of course, she is not completely pure and kind-hearted, but she has experienced the previous life and deeply understands the truth of being a man and leaving a line, and seeing each other well in the future. It's like to Yan Lin back then. Of course, she has to be the queen in life or death. Even if the Marquis of Yanji does not lose power, she will eventually choose to marry Shen Zhu, but why bother to say it so absolutely, and why choose to say it at that juncture? When it is said that it is dead, people will never do it. If she wants Yan Lin to hate herself, Yan Lin will bully her if she is powerful, which is completely reasonable. There are 2 things in this world that are best not to do. One is to bully the poor teenager, and the other is to force the mad dog to jump over the wall. Dealing with these maids and women is the same as the latter. One is that mediocre people are the same, and it is better to keep these people who already know their mistakes and will be more cautious in their words and deeds. The other is that they are too heavy, and they will inevitably leave a reputation for being ruthless, and they still have to count their hatred on themselves. They have been by her side for so long, and they are not so bad that they can be killed, and a person goes out with his mouth and says, who knows what to say. What's more, sometimes not disposing of it is not necessarily worse than disposing of it. When many people take things back just now, they must have hidden some personal information. Some people take out a little more, and some people take out a little less. Zhang Xuning didn't know how much they had taken, and she didn't bother to take the effort to check it carefully. but they may not be suspicious of each other. You think she hides too much, she thinks I take too little, and when she is gone, she will go back and pinch it herself, and she will naturally suffer guilty. If anything happens at that time, I won't be able to hate her. In this way, she can end up clean, gain a good name, and please Zhang Boyu even more. Why not do it? It should be noted that if you want to go out in the future, you will need Zhang Boyu's approval. Zhang Suining thought about it, asked Chang Zhou to bring a brazier, and then stood up and faced everyone. You all heard what I said just now, right? Everyone below trembled. I heard clearly. Zhang Suining said unhurriedly, what kind of temperament I am, you have been waiting for a long time, and you have always known. This time, I took 3 points of responsibility, and I didn't really feel that I was at fault, but I read that most of you have old people to take care of, and I can't bear to let you be sold out of the house because of this, and it is difficult to find a good family if you have a bad reputation. I'm used to you, how to serve in the past, and in the future, I can just keep the snacks tighter. But if anyone wants to be wrong a second time, don't blame me for turning my face and not recognizing people. Wang Xingjia fell on the ground in front of him and shivered fiercely. There was silence in the courtyard. There were many servants who came to watch quietly in the surrounding corners, and they were all worried when they heard the words, this second girl seems to have become different, and if anyone does not serve wholeheartedly in the future, they may be like those who are kneeling on the ground now, and they can't eat and leave. Zhang Suining raised her hand and picked up the account book and paced to the brazier. The heat that floated up filled his face. She threw the book directly into the brazier, and Ming Huang licked it up with a bright red tongue of fire and swallowed the pages, and quickly burned it. Everyone who knelt down looked at it and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Zhang Suining only said, this time the matter will end here, and I will no longer be implicated, nor will I be investigated. Go down and receive your punishment. Wang Xingjia immediately kowtowed to the ground and patted his ass. The second girl is really a bodhisattva, and she is kind-hearted, the old slave and these girls can meet a master like you. It is really a green smoke on the ancestral grave, burning the high incense for 3 lifetimes. Others are also very grateful. After a while, they all went down to receive the punishment. Lianer and Tanger are both literate, and they know what words are written on the account book of their girl just now, and they are stunned when they see this development. Even Chang Zhou, who was waiting next to him, couldn't help but look at Zhang Suining with a look of just convince you to take a book of enlightenment and talk nonsense and scare people. Zhang Suining's gaze stayed on those maids for a moment. She turned her eyes and asked Tanger softly, who is the one who knelt down and talked back? Tanger was stunned and thought about it for a while. Fang Cai was still talking back in that situation, and there was just that one. She replied, it is also possible to enter the house and serve, and it is called Tianxiang. Zhang Suining nodded. After this good show was over, she was not busy saying goodbye and leaving immediately, but followed Zhang Boyu to get up and walked back to the outside of the study. Zhang Boyu saw it. Do you want to dispose of that girl? Zhang Suining's two thin eyebrows frowned slightly, nodded slightly, but lowered his head again, and said, the people next to me are okay, they don't have any skills, at most they are bullying the soft and afraid of the hard. But this sweet fragrance has sharp teeth, and a mouth can speak very well. My daughter was almost speechless by her. If it weren't for her daughter really didn't do those things, I'm afraid I would think it was my fault when I heard her speak. It's just that one agreed not to pursue it again, and the other daughter hasn't dealt with similar things before, so I really don't know how to send her down. Zhang Boyu also saw the scene just now. The back-mouthed maid is a person who will bite if she is in a hurry, and others are still a little afraid of Zhang Suining, but this maid is arrogant and doesn't seem to take the master in her eyes. Leaving behind is probably a curse. He already had a plan when his mind turned, and he only gestured directly to Chang Zhou, but he didn't know what to say. Although Zhang Mansion is not a very large family in this capital, there are some methods in the mansion that are known. Chang Zhou was relieved. He replied, "The little one has been written down." Zhang Boyu stroked Zhang Xunning's back with his hand and said to her, "This matter is over here, this girl has someone to take care of, so you don't have to worry." But speaking of which, today's words and deeds were also taught by the little Marquis. That's not it, of course. It's just that Zhang Xuning, of course, won't tell people that he is reborn. He has already pulled Yan Lin as a shield before, and he didn't have much this time, so he nodded. It was also taught by Yan Linier. Zhang Boyu sighed, "There is a successor to the Yan Jihou mansion." Zhang Xuning lowered her eyes and said nothing. Zhang Boyu said, "You are also tired, go back and rest. I didn't come back last night, and there is such a big disturbance today. Remember to go and say hello to your mother at night, so that she can rest assured." Zhang Xuning responded, "Yes. It's not a particularly close father and daughter, and that's the end of the story." She bowed and walked away. Zhang Boyu lifted the curtain again and went to the inside of your study, and laughed when he opened his mouth. "Juan, have you waited for a long time?" At this moment, Zhang Xuning, who had just taken a step back, was stunned. A chill creeps from your feet to your head. It's just two simple words, but when it hits her ears, it screams sharply, and it blasts out a shocking bone. She turned her eyes and caught a glimpse of the corner of the study that was revealed when the curtain was lifted. On the delicately carved tea table, there was a book spread out, and a slender, bony hand stretched out, and gently turned a page. The tip of the ring finger habitually swiped along the edge of the page, very naturally, and then pressed on the corner of the page. This action Zhang Xuning is so familiar. Whether it was when she entered the palace to read and listen to his lectures in the previous life, or when she happened to be the queen to set foot in the cabinet to watch him deal with the government with Shenju, or after Shenju was poisoned, she walked through the imperial garden in surprise and found that he was sitting in the pavilion reading the recital. This man's gestures are naturally elegant. Even when you kill people without blinking, they are also beautiful in an instant. Thank you, the word is safe. In this short moment, all the memories related to this person in Zhang Xunning's mind were all churning and surging with fear. Remembered Yu Fangyan and said, there was a huge secret in the previous dynasty, but anyone who has a little brain knows it, and he will not make a mistake. It's just a pity that I knew it too late. Remembering the end of his past life, I remembered the old scar on her wrist that still can't be erased. Zhang Boyu had already walked in. The curtain hung down again. But Zhang Xunning's world was extremely quiet, and she could hear the sound of conversation coming from inside. Zhang Boyu sighed, alas, it was Ning Yata's matter just now. She has been worrying me for a long time, but I didn't expect to be able to carry it this time. If you're not a father, you don't know what it's like. Speaking of which, when you went to Beijing secretly, you were still with her. In the blink of an eye, it's been 4 years. The man across from him seemed to be silent for a moment. Then he spoke lightly, his voice was like a stone hit by a hidden spring, low and magnetic. Second girl Ning. At this time, Chang Zhou, who was behind, also brought incense in. The curtain was lifted again. Zhang Xuning then clearly saw the corner of the robe covered with azure crepe, and moved slightly, and the person sitting at the tea table turned sideways in the direction of the door curtain. Even if she couldn't see his face, she couldn't touch his gaze, but at this moment, she could clearly perceive that he was looking towards her who was still standing outside the study. It is clearly separated by the door curtain, but it seems to be able to come out through the curtain. Jiang Xuning only felt that her heart was suddenly grabbed by a huge palm, and she almost couldn't breathe. Fang, today, everyone knows that 4 years ago, the young master of the Crown Prince Xie Wei secretly entered Beijing alone, assisting Shen Lang, the third prince at that time, to ascend the throne. Everyone also knows that Zhang Boyu, the head of the household department, has made meritorious contributions from the dragon, and 4 years ago he concealed people's eyes and ears and secretly helped Xie Wei enter Beijing. But few people know. At that time, Zhang Boyu pretended to be a distant relative of Zhang Mansion, so that he went to Beijing with his concubine who was in Tongzhou, and later the Emperor Xie Wei, who strategized and turned the tide, was hidden in Jiang Xuning's car at that time. Everyone else is called Second Miss Zhang, but he Xie Wei is different from others, and he wants to call Second Miss Ning. Jiang Xuning has made a lot of calculations. How can she calculate that the distinguished guest in Zhang Boyu's study today is Xie Wei? She should have been alarmed. How many people in the government and the opposition dared not say a word, and directly threw Zhou Yunzi, a brocade guard, outside, and let him wait without saying a word and without complaint? Jiang Xuning didn't know how she got out of the study. All she knew was that her steps were smoother and calmer than ever. It wasn't until she got out of the study and went up to the cloister, and saw that she was about to return to her room, that her feet suddenly softened, and without warning she tripped up, and she helped the pillar next to her, and sat down under the porch with a white face. Wrong. As soon as I came back from rebirth, I made a fatal mistake. She will always remember the first time she met Xie Wei. The man who had not yet recovered from the cold, with a sick face, dressed in a white cloth coat without frills, hugged a piano, and looked a little sad, but with a smile on his lips. He walked to the carriage and bowed his head slightly. At that time, she didn't know that this person would become the emperor of the government and the opposition in the future, let alone that this person would slaughter the entire royal family. If she knew, during that journey, she might choose to restrain her bad temper and be nicer to this person. No. If she knew, she would never put half a bowl of blood for him when the barren mountains and mountains were in danger. In the previous life, when his sword was aimed at the Xiao family and the royal family, she once asked Xie Wei how he dared to do such a thing that hurt nature and reason and disregarded people's lives. Xie Wei lightly ticked the roster with the vermilion imperial pen, and then replied, "You are not the sky, how do you know that I am hurting the heavens, not doing the right thing for the heavens?" Jiang Xuning was completely stunned. He put down his pen again and looked at her quietly. As for Niang, it is Xie Mao's greatest kindness to be able to live to this day. When I was sick and confused, I once confided in my mother some big rebellious words. Fortunately, Niang had a bad memory at that time, and she had no idea, and after entering Beijing, I ordered people to try 3 times, and Niang had no impression at all. I just let go of my heart and let Niang live for 2 more years. Otherwise, on the day Xie Maofeng was a young master, Niang was already in a different place. He smiled and reached out to scratch his neck. Jiang Xuning felt that she was immersed in ice water. And his smiling expression was even more chilling than the night at that time. In other words, Xie Wei didn't kill her after entering Beijing because she didn't remember and wasn't smart. Now these words echoed in his ears again, and then recalled the meaningful sentence "Second Miss Ning." Jiang Xuning raised her hand and covered her neck, only to find that the tips of her fingers had lost their temperature and were trembling. Xie Wei is not a good type. In the last 2 years of his last life, his name was like a huge and heavy shadow, shrouding the entire court and the entire imperial city, making people even walk with fear and bow their heads. Tanger and Lianer were so frightened when they saw her like this. Girl, what's wrong with you?" Jiang Xuning didn't remember what those rebellious words were now, but she knew more when she came back from rebirth, and this did not prevent her from judging the situation she might soon find herself in. Xiawei will kill. The fingers, which were almost unconscious, slowly lowered. She blinked, and her voice was a little trance-like. Tanger, go back and take a look, Zhou Yinzi is still there.